The Great Bird. In a village far from the reaches of any kingdom, surrounded by dark forests and towering mountains, lived a boy named Archie. He was small for his age, with tangled hair and bright eyes that always seemed to be searching for something beyond what anyone else could see. The villagers often looked down on him, whispering behind his back, calling him weak, odd and useless. But none of that mattered to Archie. Deep inside, he carried a fire, an insatiable curiosity about the world beyond his small, harsh village. Archie had heard many tales of the forbidden forest that lay on the outskirts of the village, an ancient, twisted place where no one dared to go. It was said to be haunted by creatures no man had ever seen and guarded by shadows that swallowed anyone who entered. The villagers spoke of the forest with fear and awe, their voices hushed whenever the wind carried its eerie whispers. One evening, as the sun sank behind the mountains, Archie made a decision that would change everything. He would enter the forest. The villagers would never believe it, but something deep inside him urged him forward, an unshakable feeling that there was more to the forest than danger. That night he slipped out of his tiny house, the cold air biting at his skin, and set off toward the dark line of trees that loomed in the distance. The moment Archie crossed the threshold into the forest, the world seemed to change. The air grew thicker, heavy with silence, and the trees twisted together, their branches clawing at the sky like bony fingers. The path beneath his feet was overgrown and barely visible, but Archie pressed on, his heart pounding in his chest. Every sound, every rustle of leaves made him jump, but his curiosity was stronger than his fear. As he ventured deeper, a strange sound reached his ears, a deep, sorrowful cry that echoed through the trees, unlike anything he had ever heard. It was a sound filled with pain and despair, yet there was something majestic about it. Archie followed the cry, his footsteps quickening as the noise grew louder. Finally, he reached a clearing hidden in the heart of the forest, shrouded in mist so thick it clung to his skin. In the center of the clearing lay a sight that took Archie's breath away. A colossal bird, larger than anything he could have imagined, was trapped in a massive net made of rough ropes. Its wings, wide enough to cover the entire clearing, were pinned to the ground, and its golden feathers shimmered weakly in the fading light. The bird's head lay low, and its piercing eyes, once full of life, now reflected deep suffering. Archie's heart clenched. He had heard tales of magnificent creatures before, but nothing like this. This bird wasn't just a creature, it was a legend, a force of nature, a being of ancient power. And it was suffering. Without thinking, Archie rushed forward. His hands, though small, worked feverishly at the ropes, trying to free the bird from its cruel trap. His knife was dull, his arms weak, but he persisted. Hours passed, the night deepened, and the forest seemed to close in around him, but Archie would not stop. As dawn began to break, Archie finally cut through the last rope. The great bird, though weak, slowly rose to its feet. Its wings stretched wide, casting a massive shadow over the clearing. For a moment it stood there towering over Archie, who looked up in awe, his chest heaving with exhaustion. The bird's eyes, now gleaming with renewed strength, met his, and in that gaze Archie felt something powerful pass between them, a silent promise, a connection that words could not explain. With one last glance at the boy, the great bird took to the sky, its wings cutting through the mist. Archie watched as it disappeared into the clouds, feeling a strange mix of relief and longing. Months passed, and life in the village carried on as it always had, until the drought came. It started slowly, with the rivers shrinking and the crops withering, but soon the land was parched, cracked and lifeless. The villagers grew desperate as food and water dwindled. Every day they begged the skies for rain, but the sun remained unrelenting, burning everything in its path. Archie, too, felt the weight of the drought. His family, already poor, had nothing left. They sat in silence each night, their bellies empty, their spirits drained. The villagers once again turned their disdain toward him. "What good is the boy?" they muttered. "He's too weak to help, too small to make a difference." But Archie could not forget the great bird. Every night he would dream of its golden feathers, its powerful wings, and those eyes that had looked into his soul. And then, one night, the bird returned to him, not in the flesh, but in a vision. It flew through the sky, wings outstretched, its voice echoing in Archie's mind. "The time has come," the bird said, its voice like thunder. "You freed me when I was bound. Now I will repay you." Archie woke with a start, the bird's words still ringing in his ears. He could feel the weight of destiny pressing on him, urging him to act. Without a second thought, he rose from his bed and ran through the village, past the empty fields and dry riverbeds, toward the edge of the forest. The villagers watched in confusion as Archie disappeared into the trees. Some shook their heads, others laughed, thinking the boy had finally lost his mind. But Archie didn't care. He ran deeper into the forest, his heart racing, until he reached the clearing where he had freed the bird. As he stood there, the wind began to change. Dark clouds gathered above, swirling like a storm about to break. And then, in the distance he heard it, a mighty cry, the same cry he had heard months ago. The great bird appeared, its golden feathers glowing against the stormy sky. With a powerful flap of its wings, the bird called to the heavens, and the clouds obeyed. Rain began to pour, first in gentle drops, then in torrents, soaking the earth, filling the rivers, and reviving the dying crops. The villagers, stunned and grateful, rushed outside, their faces turned toward the sky. They couldn't believe their eyes, the drought was over, and the boy they had mocked was the one responsible. As the rain continued to fall, the great bird descended once more, landing before Archie. Its eyes, full of ancient wisdom and gratitude, met his once again. The bird lowered its head in a gesture of thanks before taking flight, vanishing into the clouds. The villagers gathered around Archie, their disbelief slowly turning into awe. They had witnessed a miracle, and the boy they had once dismissed as weak and insignificant had saved them all. Archie stood among them, drenched but smiling, knowing that his courage had made all the difference. From that day forward, the legend of the great bird spread far beyond the village, a tale of a boy whose heart was greater than anyone could have imagined, and a bird that repaid an act of kindness with a gift that saved an entire village.